In the dynamic world of global business, entering new markets is like stepping into uncharted territory where the rules are different and the landscape is unfamiliar. For those with vision and determination, these challenges can transform into incredible opportunities. Today, we delve into the story of April Long, CEO and co-founder of Pixies, who left China to start a new life in Africa. Her journey isn't just about personal ambition. It's also about navigating the complexities of doing business in a vastly different environment. Africa, with its diverse cultures and rapid growth, offers unique challenges and immense potential. But how do you successfully manage a business in such a dynamic market? What does it take to bridge the gap between two vastly different continents, economies, and countries, and between China as a country and Africa? April's journey provides insights into the broader challenges of international business expansion, especially in emerging markets. It's not just about having a great product, it's also about understanding the market, building local trust, and navigating complex regulations. April, this has been a long time coming, and we needed a better way to make payments between China and Africa. But even before we get into the business that is Pixies, and that is why we are here, I would want to understand your journey from China to here, Africa, Kenya, and then how it has been.
It has been quite some time back. I first came to Africa in 2013.
Wow.
So that's 11 years ago. And that time I was still a university student. I read a lot of business cases and people talking about social business, social commerce. I read a lot of interesting stories that some professors argue that in markets that are that time we used to call it bottom of the pyramid. We don't use that term that much again, but that time I think, yeah, we used to use that. And I think there's a very interesting article in Harvard Business Review that says in the bottom of the pyramid market, a lot of time it's not to sell cheaply. Actually, a lot of business succeed because they get a fair margin. And if you look at the product, it's very expensive. So I was like, that's super interesting. How do you sell to people who you think do not afford expensive things? Just generally, how do you sell things to these people? And that time I was, my major is in marketing. So I felt it makes sense. Because everyone has a need, has a demand. I think the idea is to really understand these people's needs and demand instead of imagining that they cannot pay. So you just offer something that is that you don't need at a very low cost, and it doesn't go.
Pixies is a payment solutions company. Why did you think of this?
So my background has been, especially ever since I came to Africa, my career path changed from PR, advertising, communications to financial service. I think also because of that time, there's no job for me in communications and PR, but then there is need of people, talents in financial service. That's how I came along this path. And ever since then, I've always been in serving in financial service, but cross-border, across Africa and Asia. So, and I've seen a lot of challenges in making payments in between. So that's one of the reasons I started Pixels.
Nice. When you talk of challenges, I know that sometimes there's a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to making payments through the banking system. Or if I just come from out of the blues and I am paying for something in China, or a Chinese entrepreneur or businessman is making a payment for something they found in Kenya, because there has never been a relationship. We understand you have to sign so many documents, you have to say you know this person, you have to prove, and all those things. Pixies is kind of plugging this gap and kind of making it easy to make payments across, Africa and into China, and from China into Africa. And so when you look at the kind of trends that you have seen when it comes to making payments, how has it changed? And that Pixies has come in, and we are offering these solutions to businesses, to people. How has it changed since you guys came in? How old are you, by the way, as Pixies?
We are also a very young, early stage startup. So I think the whole Afro-Asia cross-border are the area we are in. And there are a lot of interesting stuff in between. For example, we all know here, we're here, we all know things around us, like maybe that power plug, maybe this mug. Yeah. It can be coming from China. Most of the things around us are coming from China. But how did it get in? How do you buy something from China and sell it here? How to set up such a business? Is that making money? What are the challenges in between? So I think the whole China-Africa trade has always been a black box to many people. And traders in between are not really included in a modern financial service or modern economy. They often become very shy because they are not understood. They are harassed. So and it's very interesting to really dive in and understand what's happening. And for example, a lot of for me, I think when I go to the Lustuli Road, Nyamakima, that area.
You know Nyamakima.
Where most of the Kenya wholesalers are. It's very interesting. I've not seen anywhere in the world that has that kind of passion for goods from China. And again, when I look at the kind of product, the cost, the quality, I know this trade has a lot that can improve.
Yeah.
I think now as it's not really included in a proper financial system, or it's the efficiency is very low, and there are a lot of intermediaries in between.
Yes.
So that makes the cost of buying things here more expensive. If you compare things that we buy here and compare things in the US, we buy things in a more expensive way
than the US or Europe. Or
if you look at the same quality, the same thing, and you compare the price in Africa and in Europe, in US, you find in Africa it's more expensive.
And it does make sense, because if you look, and it's not just imports, like for per unit of power, electricity, we pay more in Africa than most parts of the world. And this is why you will rarely find electric cookers in people's homes, like in Kenya, for instance, or cooling systems, because electricity is expensive. And when you came in, Kenya is the land of M-Pesa, and we know that we were trying to integrate this, and it has been integrated in many businesses locally, but internationally not so much. Well, there is now something they are partnering with to make payments easier, but I would ask for someone like me who would want to pay for a product in China or for a service, maybe I have sent something to be serviced in China, how would I use Pixies?
So as I said, we are also starting up. We are a young startup, and the vision is to, at the end of the day, help or empower more Africans to be able to source and pay, to manage global supply chain easily. Yeah. So we are on the track, on our track, going towards the goal. We have made some partnership with some tech giants in China, WeChat Pay, Alipay. However, China is a market that has a lot of its own financial regulations. China is a very heavily regulated market in terms of financial service. So so again, there are also a lot of nitty-gritties when it comes to Africa. Sometimes we find the exchange rate indicated by central bank isn't really the rate that is in the market. So I think there is a lot of nuances on both sides. So that makes this whole problem very, very complex. Currently our partner WeChat Pay, with the partnership, it allows us to do person-to-person payment. An individual can pay money to another individual in China from wallet to wallet. And we are also onboarding Alipay, which is another huge wallet in China. And they will support a bit more use cases. They will support business paying, business for trade. In a limited amount that was approved by People's Bank of China.
Nice. And I think this, the way I understand it is, and for me, by the way, I really don't like bureaucracy. Like, it's my money in my bank, I can spend it any way I want. But now this is person to person, business to business, and cutting all the bureaucracy in between. That's a really interesting solution to have.
So I think that's a starting point where we have built something to start from. And with that, it allows, at least from a personal level or a small business level, being able to pay with more comfort just from your phone. And that will, and also you can pay initially, and the other person will get CNY directly, as opposed to you go to bank, get initially into US dollar, and then the other person receives US dollar, and then go to the bank, get US dollar from CNY. So now it's just streamlined with what we have built.
Oh, nice. And now we can shift to challenges, because when it comes to starting a business in a foreign country, in a foreign land, there has to be challenges. First, language, then culture, then acceptability, then many other things. But for you, and starting your business here, and I think you also are in Nigeria, right? So when you're starting your business, what are the challenges that you have experienced setting the business here in Kenya? I know regulations, because central bank has to regulate, just like the People's Bank of China. And what other challenges have you experienced setting up Pixies?
I don't think regulation is really the challenge. It's just, every market has someone to manage it. I think to me, it's more of the Kenya startup kind of ecosystem is quite Western centric in terms of all the context, people's understanding. It's very much driven by especially U.S. economy.
Yeah.
If you look at the fintechs here, we mostly started from African diaspora in the US,
Yes.
trying to pay money back home in Africa. That's, I think, the cross-border payment, how the industry started.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the challenge is also, it is more on that side. There are very little understanding about the payment market in China.
Yeah.
So a lot of time when an investor asks me a question or my peer, my partner asks a question, it's very far from the at least the China Africa context. Again, I think it goes back to what we talked about just now.
Yeah.
There are huge trades happening. Do we know how it happened?
Do we know?
How it happened, how it actually happened.
Yes.
What are the challenges? Who are the ones doing it? So I think there are a lot of black box. These are the challenges, but these are also the opportunities.
The opportunities that are there. And so the dark spots in doing business, in starting businesses, especially in Kenya, are finding what is that people are not understanding and giving a solution. That's the opportunity they're in. And I think you have quite figured it out. And I think in Kenya, because of the M-Pesa, most of what you're doing now is a bit demystified, because, you know, back in the day, even when M-Pesa came on, there were questions, oh, how do I have money on the phone? I mean, I can't see the money like money, but I have money on the phone. I'm sending someone money and they can withdraw so basically a lot of literacy in terms of mobile money has been done. And so I think that has made it easier for you when you're doing these kinds of solutions that you're offering Kenyans, right?
Of course, M-Pesa has laid a huge infrastructure to whoever who is in Kenya. And that makes everyone having the same, you can be able to pay. I can be able to pay as well.
Yes.
Someone in Nairobi, someone in Mount Kenya, someone in Kisumu.
Yes.
So you, because these infrastructure laid, I think there are more equal opportunity to everybody. Yeah. And with what we have built, you can actually pay from M-Pesa to say Alipay wallet directly. That will enable you to be able to buy something from abroad easily. We've just had a new partnership with Alibaba Group.
Oh, congratulations!
And we are yet to work out a full business plan, but the idea is to really help people starting from Kenya to be able to set up a business to buy and sell.
Awesome. Guys, the opportunities are here. We just need to go for them. And I think that now that you've mentioned those partnerships, I think partnerships are important also for when you're doing these kinds of businesses.
Of course.
Yeah. So don't just look at yourself and say, I am going to do this and I am going to do it alone. You have to partner with others.
The market, from where I sit, where I see it, the market is huge. There are a lot of unmet demands. I have a lot of friends who can you imagine? They buy things from Amazon in the US and airship it to Kenya.
Yes.
And again, everybody knows this thing that is from Amazon is actually from China.
From China.
So why the whole trade? It has to be China to US to Kenya,
then to Kenya,
China to Europe to UK to Kenya. Why we can't trade within ourselves? And this is exactly one of the things that we're looking at.
Nice. And by the way, I think the secret to doing business globally is opening up ourselves and not closing ourselves in too much regulation that we cannot even, send money. But April, I know that when it comes to many businesses, they are male dominated. And even in the tech ecosystem that you're in, it is still male dominated. So when you look at this and with this reality, since it is no different, what have you faced as a woman first in business and starting a solution that there are thousands of others who are competing for that space? What are the challenges that you faced as a woman?
I think as a woman in this space is quite unique. I do really hope to see more women entrepreneurs in this space, especially across China, Africa. I think it's a very much unlike our Western counterparts, that there are a lot of emphasis in empowering women. I think we don't. In China, that kind of pressure to be politically correct to empower women isn't that great. So I think, especially when it comes to financial service sector, I find it's really quite a male-dominating industry. In a lot of occasions, I find myself being the only woman in the room. However, I do find, though that's the reality, I do find there are quite a lot of interesting women doing different things, especially impact-driven stuff by women. So I have a Chinese friend who's doing a farm in Kenya. There's another Chinese woman doing renewable energy, doing very well. We also talk about this with our friends in China. They're like, oh no, as much as you're saying that women are, there's not a lot of women, but we see a lot of great entrepreneurs in this sector that are actually women. So and doing something that is quite different from the market.
That's a beautiful thing to hear, because when you look at a society, especially like, and I think it's global, it's very patriarchal, it's very male dominated, many aspects of life, families and things like that. But when you see a woman, pushing through and excelling and doing all these great things, then it becomes, a light for someone else who may be like, oh my God, I am a girl, I don't know if I can do this. But when they see someone excelling in this, then it becomes something like, wow, a model, a role model.
And I do find there is a more active women entrepreneur community in Kenya. Actually, today is Tuesday.
Yes.
On Wednesday, there is an event called Women Who Build Africa, WWBA, as a site event of Kenya FinTech, Africa FinTech Summit. And they're doing cool stuff. I'm part of that as well.
Awesome.
So they're going to ask, they've invited a lot of investors. So instead of founders pitching investor, they are going to do a reverse pitching. Ask the investors to now come pitch
for your business,
for the founders.
Nice.
So I mean, I find, though being a woman entrepreneur, isn't very easy. But I find communities that are taking us together and approach it as a community.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Kenya is pioneering in many aspects. Yeah, women are empowered in Kenya. And it is true because if you look at our, the fintech sector, there are many Kenyan women who are doing stuff within that sector. If you look at the media, which is like very, where people get most of the role models from, we have a lot of women who have pioneered and who are, kind of conquering the male-dominated. And so even seeing this happening, it just gives you some kind of encouragement and joy, knowing that our women are not being left behind.
And I do think Kenyan women, I've seen very tough, persistent Kenyan women. I think for anyone to thrive in a male-dominated environment, it actually form very big women characters.
Yes, it does. And that is a beautiful thing. I have one more question for you. When we talk about, I'm coming back to the Chinese community in Kenya. And I want you to be really honest. When it comes to the Chinese cuisine, the food, the culture, how good is it? Or how bad is it?
The Chinese food in Kenya?
Yes.
It's really good. I still remember the time I was pregnant with my first child. By the way, I have two kids. Both are born in Kenya.
Wow.
So when I was pregnant with my first child, when you're pregnant, you kind of your appetite change.
Yes.
You feel like you want to eat this, you want to eat that. So that
the
time
cravings.
that time I still one of the reasons for me to become homesick was lack of the food that I want to eat. So that time I was a bit like I want to eat the Chinese noodle, which are not found here. But now you find everything here.
Everything is here now.
Everything is here. You can even find the kind of street food, different snacks. So it's, and again, there was a time my Singaporean Chinese, they are Singaporean, but they are Chinese ethnic group, like me. So there was the time that they went back to Singapore during pandemic. And when they come back, they were like, April, I'm very hungry for the Chinese hot pot in Kenya.
Yes. What?
And they came from Singapore.
They are missing it when they
miss the Chinese food in Kenya.
Wow, guys, we are offering the world.
I mean, it's I think that you find all kind of Chinese food here. And the competition is so high in Chinese food catering kind of industry. There are a lot of restaurants that I've not even been to that got closed.
Because of competition.
It's
cutthroat. It's cutthroat.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's good for me. It's good for everyone that you can just try different food. And I think generally Nairobi is just a very international, cosmopolitan city. Not only in Chinese food, you find all kinds of different food. You find very, very authentic Italian food. You find very nice Turkish food. So as a foodie, I have no regret living in Nairobi.
We've won. On that one, we have won. And by the way, I have been to a number of Chinese restaurants. My only challenge is eating using the chopsticks. I have not gotten that. But it's been a wonderful conversation with you, April. Seeing Kenya from your perspective and the investment kind of terrain for someone from outside. and coming and just doing amazing things. But let me just ask you this one, because I think it's important for someone who wants to come and start a business here, either in Kenya or in Nigeria where Pixies is, or in, well, South Africa is a different case on this continent and most of North Africa, but in the DRC, what is the kind of advice you would give them that you're coming to invest or to start a business in Kenya, in DRC, in Uganda, in Tanzania? What is it that you would say? You have to do this if you want to survive, and you have to avoid this completely if you have to make it.
I think different kind of business are different, but overall, I think Chinese are in general very practical people. So and you find Chinese people on the ground doing all kinds of business, from running a Chinese restaurant to doing decor, constructing a building, to sell different things, selling electrical supplies. I would say we do still have a lot of opportunity in Africa. As a continent, Africa, we are just starting to grow. We are the last frontier of the world. So as long as you feel you are able to add value in some of the aspects, I think Africa is a great space to start a business. And I would suggest more people to look at the opportunities we have here.
Right. So basically the challenge would be within yourself. Do you want to go do this?
Do you want to go do this? Do you want to believe that this is something promising, instead of believing in the typical traditional stereotype that this is Africa? So how do you want to look at something from different perspectives?
Awesome. Thank you so much, April, and all the best with
Thank
Pixies.
you, Jenga.
I look forward to buying something from China using Pixies.
Oh, okay.
And guys,